Hey YouTube guys and gals, everybody out there watching my videos. Here is Griever once again bringing you a different type of video. You guessed it, a different type of video. Now this time we're going to be discussing something that happened recently in the One Piece chapter. It was chapter 894 where we're still in the middle of, or we're reaching the end of the Whole Cake Island arc and stuff. And I don't do a whole lot of One Piece content, in fact, any really, on my channel. It's something that a lot of other cats and dogs do, and they do it way better than I think I could. I don't bring really new perspectives to the table more times than anybody else. So I tend to steer clear of that. I'd like to be part of that community, but I just, and I love One Piece and I love reading it, but I think I'm a little late to the party, and I'm really going to need to find some inventive different ways of getting a foothold in that side of things before I really delve into a full One Piece, weekly chapter review, things like that. So, but this week's chapter actually brought up an interesting point. Now, I already watched the big guys. I already watched Tekken 101, and I watched Zoro Fanboy. I watched, who else? King of Lightning, Sawyer, Joy Boy. I watched a lot of other people's reactions on Roger's Base. I watched the reactions to this chapter and all about the new form that Luffy has. Luffy has the form Snake Man now, Gear 4th Snake Man. Now, for those of you who don't know, most of Luffy's other abilities, Monkey D. Luffy, the main character of the show, has always been gears. That's how he gets his power upgrade. It's like, basically, if you want to think of it, it's a little more inventive than this, but to break it down for simplicity's sake, think of how Goku went up to Majin Buu, Fat Buu, in the Buu Saga, and basically said, here's my normal state. This is a Super Saiyan. This is a Super Saiyan 2, and this is a Super Saiyan 3. That's basically the same idea as the gears. The gear forms are meant to be power upgrades. They're like, okay, Luffy has maxed out. He can't be this strong in the New World, so they gave him a power upgrade. They gave him Gear 2nd. Then he had Gear 3rd. Now, after a 2-year time skip, he has Gear 4th, the equivalent of a Super Saiyan 3 sort of idea. Time skip Dragon Ball Z, time skip in One Piece. Now, of course, the main character comes back with a transcendent beyond power than the previous limitations. So we get this Gear 4th, and it's Bound Man, and he's got King Kong gun and stuff. And a lot of people a lot of people hated it at first, and I thought it was kind of weird looking. I didn't like the fact that it was stated to me that he's constantly bouncing, because I read the manga, but I do not watch the anime. So I didn't like the fact that he's constantly bouncing. I thought that was weird. And then there's Tank Man and things like that, which is a variation sort of Bound Man. The thing is that a lot of people decided that, okay, when he was on Ruskaina with Rayleigh and he was training and there's all those giant animals, they saw a gorilla, and everyone went, okay, King Kong gun, there's a giant gorilla, so there's got to be a lion form and all these other forms that he saw the giant animals, he learned the forms, and he's got multiple forms of Gear 4th. The problem with this is that, well, it's not a bad theory, and actually I think it'd be kind of cool. But this Snake Man thing throws a whole monkey wrench, pun intended, into this theory, because there was no giant snake that we saw initially anyways on Ruskaina. Now, a lot of people have said maybe this is an ode to Boa Hancock, and she's, creaming herself over this shit. Because Luffy, her beloved, her betrothed, her wonderful Luffy son managed to is using power that is directly connected to her. That's it's an ode to her sort of thing. I'm like, okay, I'm good with this. Yeah, that's a fine theory, whatever. But something was brought up, and I think it was, and I'll give credit where credit is due, Zoro Fanboy live reaction to One Piece chapter 894. Somebody brought up the idea about it being related more so, because we got a lot of Rayleigh flashbacks, which really I'd be happy. I know everyone is sick of this arc and just wants it to wrap up, even though we've had some solid chapters lately. I want more Rayleigh. I'd be totally fine with more Rayleigh. If they want to have the four next chapters just be Luffy and Rayleigh talking and training, I'd be good with that, honestly, because I think Rayleigh is such a badass. But that's beside the point. The fact of the matter is that this was brought up in Zoro Fanboy's reaction, and it was so I'm not taking my credit for this, but it brought up an interesting theory that this Snake Man form is in essence to observation hockey specifically. Look at the eyes. The eyes have changed from what we just see in this last panel. The eyes are different than they are in Gear 4 Boundman. So that got me thinking, okay, well, if it's observation based, and he sucks at he doesn't suck at observation hockey, but it's probably his weakest trait. Luffy is far better. He's naturally gifted with conqueror's hockey, and armament hockey is his, after that. I think observation is probably his weakest place among the hockey tiers. So I sat there and I went, okay, so we have, but how is this relevant? Like that wouldn't make sense if we're going with the whole. There's there's the lion and the gorilla and the other. Then this is not going to add up properly if they're based on hockey forms. And I'm like, well, wait a minute now. Tank Man was kind of more or less was Tank Man really its real form? There's still debate in the community if Tank Man was his real form. Bound Man and Tank Man seem to me to be very armament hockey based. If this is the line of thinking we're going on, if they're so armament hockey based, then that would bring up the fact that the observation hockey thing is true, and observation hockey is Snake Man's true form. That's going to the pinnacle of his ability to use observation hockey, not so much armament hockey, which is of course Gear 4 Boundman, Tank Man. And the only reason I bring this up is because if that's the case, and I want to give credence to this theory because it's new. It's not something I've heard before. And whenever I hear something new in the community, I'm like, I got to give this a second. I got to give this its credence. I got to give this a thought because it's a great way for us as manga fans and anime fans to kind of come together and discuss different ideas before they happen. Not this whole, well, I called that, but it was kind of obvious sort of thing, like, who was going to call Aizen's betrayal in Bleach before it actually happened? I just want to bring that up. That's a perfect example. Who was going to think that Madara in Naruto was going to end up being alive this whole time and manipulating everybody? Who was going to, and I'm not talking chapter on arc, I'm talking like arcs before. Like, no one calls this shit the big things. So it's great for us as fans and YouTube creators and things like that, content creators, to come together and decide, and have these theories and discussions and kind of think outside the box when it comes to these things. Because we all are creative. We all make videos. We all write stories. We go on Reddit and we go on these sites and stuff, and we post what we think is going to happen next, what we think about the characters, what direction they're going to go, and so we're all creative people in that way. And the viewers are also very creative in that respect, because then you get a bunch of dislikes, you get a bunch of likes. If you start making sense, if you start bringing a theory together that sounds like it might be a little outside the box, but it's got a lot of support to it, or it potentially could happen, then all of a sudden you see that from viewers on YouTube. They will click that like button, and all of a sudden it's like, well, this theory holds weight, and more people see it, more people go, yeah, that might be a good idea. Even if it's wrong, at the end of the day, it was still something that brought up the thing. So this one offline thing about Snake Man being observation hockey based really made me think this is actually a good thing. The reason this is a good thing, because everyone's talking about awakenings, and that's the Gear 5th. I would hate the awakening to be Gear 5th. Gears are Luffy's unique way of adapting his devil fruit to its maximum potential and finding new inventive ways, innovative ways to use a devil fruit that is, once again, outside the box. He's outside that box. So I just think that, all right, so we had an armament hockey based one, and we had, it wasn't on a crazy level. It wasn't full body or anything, but it was half body filled, with armament hockey. Then we have Snake Man, which, if it's observation based, and that's likely in this battle between observation hockeys, then what's left is Luffy's final Gear 4 form. which would be Conqueror's Haki, the thing he's most adept at. Now, what is Conqueror's Haki? It's the 1 in a million chance. It's the 1 in a million person who's got it. It's the pinnacle. It's what the kings of the world have. It's what Whitebeard and Shanks and Goldie Roger had. It's what separates powerful people. It's what separates the first mates and the strong pirates of the New World and the Grand Line and everybody else from the actual kings, from the emperors, from the top of the Marines. Because I mean, they haven't showed it, but I'm sure that there may be 1 or 2 people among the Marines that have Conqueror's Haki. I'd be surprised if Garp, for example, did not have Conqueror's Haki. Don't know if that's been confirmed. That might have been an anime filler or something, but I don't think that's been confirmed in the story that he actually has it himself. So this all leads to the fact that I think a final Gear 4th form being Conqueror's Haki base, which I have no inkling what it would look like, but I think that this would be like Luffy's final badass form, not so much these sillier forms that people have been saying, like Bowman was kind of silly looking and Tankman full version was just a fat ass Luffy. And, that's all fine and good. One Piece has its comedy. It's always going to be very, very heavy comedy. But we also need those badass times. We need those badass moments. We need those Whitebeard's a badass, Shanks is a badass. Luffy, in the end of the day, needs to have a badass form. A form that makes him look, quote-unquote, cool. He needs to look like a badass. He needs to look cool. Like when there was those video games on the PS3 and PS4, and you saw him in the big, marine-looking coat, but it was all red and decked out, and he was like a King of the Pirates version Luffy. That looked really cool. Now, I mean, it's not canon to the story, but we're talking like Luffy looking strong. Like right now, all of a sudden he developed his 8-pack and stuff, of course, drawing style and changes over time. He's got the cool scar. He's looking more muscular. That's all fine and good, but Luffy needs to have some type of badass form. Now, I'm not saying he needs to go all looking at the end of the day like Whitebeard or like a Kainu or someone like that, but Luffy does need to have a final form that's kind of like the equivalent of the Super Saiyan 3. Something which other people might say looked stupid sort of thing. But some type of form, some final Getsuga Tensho, some Path of 7 Sages, 6 paths, whatever, Naruto. I didn't really like that series. Don't flame me, but don't like that series so much. He needs to have that kind of form. He needs to have that final form, badass form, and I don't want to see it yet. We've just been introduced to Snake Man. We haven't actually seen what the form is, so this whole theory could go to crap. But I would really love to see a Conqueror's Haki-based Gear 4th as the final form, amassing some type of powers in relation to Conqueror's Haki, going outward, or maybe something that's internally based, where he takes all the Haki, all the observation Haki, all the ability to outward project Conqueror's Haki on people and pass them out. He takes all that raw energy, the power to make people weak-willed that can't stand that force, and he brings it all into himself in some, like, a condensed version, kind of in reference, for those of you who know Shaman King, and other series have done this as well, when you have, these big, giant soul sword weapons, but when you shrink them down and condense the power, you're not, stretching yourself like, as Bilbo Baggins once said, butter scraped over too much bread. Now you're a little piece of bread covered in that butter. So it's condensed power and its finest point. It's a finesse. It's a point that this is the peak of power. That would be very interesting to see a Conqueror's Haki sucked in, all the raw energy and all the power that Conqueror's Haki holds, all the weight, brought into a single human form and being able to burst outward at specific times of attack and defense and speed. That would be an ultimate type of form. And then from there, Gear 4th can be Luffy's final form, but he could have an awakening that enhances these abilities or changes them slightly, and then we wouldn't have a Gear 5th. Now, of course, people really want Gear 5th, and the story's not near enough over that we probably will see a Gear 5th, but this still, I think, holds some type of credence, and I thought about this a little bit after watching Zoro Fanboy's live stream live reaction to the One Piece chapter. Heard this little line and thought about it for a while, mulled it over for a few hours, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about this. I want to bring this to the forefront and see what YouTube, what One Piece fans think, what anime fans think. What do you guys think of the possibility that Gear 4th is the 3 hockey-based type? We've had our Armament hockey. If Snake Man is observation hockey, then there is a final Gear 4th form being the Conqueror's hockey ultimate form, and Luffy will look like such a badass. DeviantArt won't even do it justice how badass Luffy will look in this form. That being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Griever with a One Piece discussion video. I really do hope to do more of these as I find something outside the box that the other big guys, the King of Lightnings, the Sawyers, the Joy Boys, the Tekken 101s, and all the other great YouTube creators out there, the Rogers Bases, who do One Piece content, trying to find things that they haven't already talked about, and you know, bringing something new to the table in reference to that. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you enjoyed this type of video, let me know in the comment section below. If you want me to just stop doing these and go back to what you're good at, you know, stay with 7 Deadly Sins and stay with, you know, your gaming and stuff, that's fine too. Let me know in the comments below. I just want to know what you guys thought about this theory. So with that being said, guys, this has been Griever signing out. Later, guys.